Welcome to Momentum, a show where we break down the biggest issues facing women's sports, brought to you by Binge. I'm Kat Sasso, and each week I'll be joined by some of the biggest names in women's sport, athletes, experts, and trailblazers as we dive deep into the world of women's sports. From the grassroots to the global stage, we'll explore the full spectrum of challenges, victories, and everything in between. This is your inside look at the real stories, the hard conversations, and the exciting momentum driving change. This week, I'm joined by Australian water polo Olympic silver medalist and one of our fave sportswomen online, Matilda Kearns. If you've ever watched water polo, you'll know it's one of the toughest, most grueling sports on the planet. A brutal mix of endurance, strategy, and pure strength. And at the heart of it all are athletes like Matilda Kearns, who represent everything that's exciting about the next generation of Australian sport. Tilly isn't just an elite water polo player. She's part of a powerful movement of young women making waves in and out of the pool. From her early days finding her passion for the sport to stepping onto the biggest stages in the world, Tilly's story is one of hard work, resilience, and a deep love for representing her country. But beyond the medals and tournaments, there's the real story. The sacrifices, the challenges, and the evolving landscape for female athletes today. From the impact of social media to the fight for greater visibility and respect, Tilly's journey shows just how far women's sport has come and how far it still has to go. In today's episode, we'll dive into Tilly's incredible career so far, what it's really like to be a young woman at the elite level, and how she's using her platform to inspire the next generation. Tilly, thank you so much for joining us today on Momentum. For those who are at home who might not know much about your story, can you take us back to the beginning where your love for the sport of water polo started?
Absolutely. I grew up in a very active household. My dad is a professional rugby, well, was a professional rugby player. I had two brothers and a sister, and all of us just in general played every sport under the sun and were just really active. Um, I did a bit of netball and swimming, a bit of touch footy. Funnily enough, I did like shot put and javelin and discus in school. But I just tried water polo once. A young girl, I mean, one of my classmates needed someone to fill in a spot on like a Friday night competition up at Sydney Northern Beaches. And so I just said yes, and I loved it ever since. And yeah, once I started, I didn't look back. And that wasn't even proper water polo. That was like, it's called flipper ball. So it was like a very modified version of water polo, but I still absolutely loved it.
So you're obviously very well versed in the world of sports, but can you take us back to your first ever game of actual water polo?
That's tough. I remember this flipper ball competition. It's not actual water polo. It's kind of like bull rush pretty much in the pool. And I remember that. I remember just having so much fun with my teammates, with the girls, and I only met most of them that night, but it was just so much fun. And I had a natural knack for it. I guess I like to push around other girls in the pool, and I guess I was a bit of a bully in there because I was a bit bigger than all the other girls. Um, but I was scoring goals and I think I loved it. That's what drew me to it. It's always fun to be good at something. So when I was scoring goals, I was kind of hooked. Beyond that, I think my first proper game in like an actual full-size pool wouldn't have been too much later than that with the similar group of girls, just the similar love for it, the passion. But as early as I can remember, I remember my favorite part being just being around the girls, my teammates, and still that is my favorite part about water polo.
And how important is it for you to be successful in your career as a water polo player, to have those really great relationships and that support system?
I think for any team sport, the relationships is the most important thing because they're the people you're surrounded with every day. They're the ones that you got to dive in that pool first thing in the morning with. So, I mean, if you don't love that team aspect, then there's plenty of individual sports. But I think for any team sport athlete, they can agree that the camaraderie is just the best part. And I always thought growing up that I was just the luckiest person in the world that I was surrounded by so many like-minded people, younger, older, especially older, because I had these incredible role models around me, all playing water polo, teaching me so many life skills, that I still carry today. And I think they're the things now that I show and display and pass on to the younger girls now. It's kind of like an revolving door where it's just so much fun. You learn so much from each other. Um, yeah, the sport itself is great, but I think it's all about the bond that you have with teammates. And I always say my bond with my water polo teammates is something that you can't be replicated anywhere else.
We've seen real momentum, excuse the pun, in the world of women's sports. Where do you think women's water polo lies in that?
Um, Good question. I think the momentum, to carry on with your pun, of women's water polo definitely slowed down for a bit. We were a powerhouse in the world for a long time. We won gold at the Olympics in Sydney 2000, and then we won a bunch of bronzes after that. And then it was 2016 and then 2020 where went both cycles, so 8 years without a medal at the Olympics and kind of underperformed then. So when I first made it into the national team, there wasn't much momentum with the sport, but as we know now, after the Paris cycle, now we won silver, and so it's starting to pick back up, and we're starting to see more participation rates in the sport, and more kids getting involved from really early ages, and more kids signing up for their school teams than ever. And I think that is the most exciting part, that the momentum is rolling again, and it's the snowball effect once you start. It's such a great sport that I think once you start, you kind of get hooked, like I did when I was younger. So I think we're just climbing back up that hill, but it's awesome that the hills even we've started making progress back up to the top of the ladder.
Yeah, and you've obviously represented Australia at the highest level at the Olympics in Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024. For you, what would be your proudest moment as an Olympian?
I'm going to go with the generic answer, but my proudest moment 100% is standing on top of the podium at the Olympics last year in 2024. It's tough between that one and winning the semi-final, because the semi-final you're guaranteed a medal, and after this gold medal game where we actually lost to Spain, it's bittersweet because you got to get dressed straight away, go to the calling room and get your medal like 10 minutes after you've lost the game and you've lost the gold medal. So that was a bittersweet moment, but once you're standing out there and you step up onto the podium holding hands with your teammates side by side and you lift them up in the air. And it's a funny story about this as well, is for my HSE creative writing um in year 12. So what am I? I'm 24 now. However many years ago, I did my creative writing piece on that, on what that feeling would be like standing on an Olympic podium with my teammates, because that was kind of always a goal of mine. And what my creative writing was is basically bang on what the feeling was like in that moment. So that was definitely a really surreal moment, that everything that I kind of thought of and I wrote in this HSC writing was exactly what I was experiencing, especially having my family in the crowd as well. They flew all the way out to Paris to watch. And my two brothers and my sister and both of my mum and dad were bawling their eyes out. And I think that was just a really, really proud moment for me and for my family and to represent my country that way. But to win the semi-final 2 days prior was also incredible. That was, we'd guaranteed ourselves a medal, whatever color it was going to be. So we could sleep slightly easier that night. That we weren't going into a bronze medal game where there is a chance that you can lose a medal. So yeah, I think both of those two top it for sure.
And that's such a special time for you, and to have experienced that with your family there as well would have been really, really special for you. But what is it like heading into Olympics and mentally preparing yourself and also physically to potentially get to a semi final and then lose?
Yeah, and that's not something that has been too uncommon for the Aussie Stingers, for our team. We had lost so many semi-finals and quarterfinals. I think the quarterfinals is the hardest. That's to get into the top four, and then the semi-final to get into the top two, obviously. So quarterfinals are hard to win, arguably the hardest games to win. And then from there, it's just like stack loads of pressure. Um, I had rarely made it past quarterfinals with my time with the Aussie Stingers, but we got some new coaches that kind of shifted all of our preparation and focused on really knocking down our culture and starting from the beginning with all that. And we just committed to this culture of like excellence and really strong team values, especially bravery and respect were our two core values. And we really lived by that every single day. And the physical preparation was immense. It was the hardest 6 months of my life. We got a new coach 6 months out. So the 6 months from when we got a new coach to the Olympics we knew we had to commit, we had work to do. So it was the hardest physical camp preparation that I've ever gone through, but it was honestly more mentally tough because we really had to rebuild from um, a pretty low point for Water Polo Australia. And I think just going through all that together, all the adversity really brought us together, and we had so much respect for one another. We just had a bond. I mentioned a bond earlier, but this bond was really, really special. And because we were talking so much about the mindset behind everything and rebuilding our culture and being committed to this plan, we kind of set ourselves up for when our semi-final we finished in a penalty shootout. And I think all the mindset preparation that we did, we had hours and hours of meetings every single week. That's what prepared us for that moment. And I think that's what gave us the edge over all these other teams. We actually went into three penalty shootouts the whole Olympics. And we came out on top of every single penalty shootout. That's a testament to some great shooters and our amazing goalkeepers, but also like our mindset as a team. We were just so brave and it was part of our values. So the fact that we won a silver medal with our core values in the forefront was something really special. And that's what I think I'm most proud of for those games. But yeah, you're right. The physical and mental preparation for both is just so significant, but that's what makes it all the more special when you get up to the top of the podium.
And Aussies obviously love to rally around our athletes, especially come Olympics time. But you're part of a new generation of athletes that are coming through. Do you feel a certain responsibility to grow the visibility of water polo and of your sport?
Yeah, of course. I think now it's my responsibility that I have a platform and people do look to me as a figure in the water polo world. I wouldn't say I always felt like that. I kind of just started posting because I liked it and it just felt very natural for me and it was nothing out of the ordinary. I just kind of shared the average day to day and my school friends liked it, I guess. But then once it started to pick up a little bit of traction, especially on TikTok, where just videos were going viral in the lead up to the Olympics. Um, Even after my first Olympics, I still didn't see it as a responsibility, but now for sure when there's girls that come up to me after a game of water polo, or people are replying to my DMs all the time, thanking me or asking for advice, it's those tiny special moments that remind me that I'm doing good things and I am inspiring people out in the world. And I think, especially like water polo, when we don't get a huge amount of media coverage outside of the Olympics every 4 years, I definitely feel a responsibility to be a person for the young water polo players to look to, or just even if they're not water polo players, to keep young girls involved in sport and to have someone to look up to. I think sport brings so many incredible things. It teaches life skills that stretch so much more than just being on a team, like teamwork and communication and hard work, all these things that allow you to also thrive in like the business world outside of the sport world. And I think young girls everywhere are kind of rid of that because there's not a huge amount of visibility and girls drop out of sports way earlier than boys do. Boys, there's just like sport competitions everywhere, left, right, and center. You don't have to look far for them. So I think if I can encourage young girls to stay in sport, it just opens up a whole plethora of things for them later in life, even if they don't want to go down a professional sport route. If they do, that's amazing. I can be that person too. But yeah, just to show them the importance and the value of sport as well.
So you just brought up your social media, and social media has obviously played a really massive role in the lives of Olympians, and we all love watching Olympics content, especially when the Olympics are on. But how have you, as an athlete, used that to your advantage?
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it was I kind of accidentally stumbled into it, but the opportunities that social media has brought for me has been insane, and I'm so grateful. I started posting in the lead up to the Olympics, and that was the hype. I guess, started at the right time because there was all this Olympic hype, and people were turning to my page to see an insight, especially into the COVID Olympics, because it was so new and different, and people had never seen that before. It was also the first Olympics where athletes were allowed to post behind the scenes content. So it was like a first look into that. Um, but then from there, I guess I garnered all these people that were so intrigued in my story outside of the 4 years. And I think that's what's so special is that they can see the highs and the lows of the journey throughout the 4 years instead of just us in those 2 weeks after like there's so much that happens between every Olympics. And for sports like water polo, the public only sees the game in every 4 years. So people were kind of coming on my journey and they were loving it and seeing the daily updates on my stories or like my eyes burning from the chlorine or the scratches or just like the stuff that's just day to day for me, but no one else kind of knew that that was the norm. And I think that's really special for people to see. And it helps me build my community. They love it. I love to share it, and then they can enjoy the successes and the downfalls with me as well.
Yeah, and how important is it to you that you're actually getting that out there? You're telling your story and you're getting people to understand what your life actually looks like outside of those 2 weeks at the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, I just post what's happening day to day and I'm not thinking too much about it, but people seem to really love it and they've connected with me and characters in my life. Like they're my friends, but people are loving it. Um, they love to see it, I guess, and they're so intrigued. What I think is just like normal everyday stuff, like drug testing. We get drug tested all the time. That's the content that people are so fascinated by because, I mean, I forget that it's not everyone's every day that people knock on the door and I have to pee into a cup. Like, not everyone has to do that. What do you mean? But yeah, that's kind of the quirky side of it is that people can experience all those things just through my social media, and it's really powerful, as well as it also opening opportunities for me to make money outside of just water polo because there's definitely not enough money in water polo for me to earn a living off. But there definitely is in the opportunities that come with posting online.
Financially, Olympians and people in the sports that aren't as broadcasters as, the mainstream ones here in Australia are always talking about how the financial burden of getting to an Olympics and training and you're not really getting paid as a full-time athlete, it's a massive burden on you. So how do you juggle that?
Yeah, I'm lucky because I'm right now I'm at college. I'm in the States in LA at University of Southern California. And here I'm on a scholarship, luckily enough. So I get a monthly stipend that pays for my rent. They give us food. So I really have no expenses over here. I can just play water polo. And I have some leftover spending money. When I'm back home as well, I am so lucky that I can move in and live with my parents because I'm not home for long periods of time. I'm here, there, and then we go to camp in Queensland, then we fly to Singapore. Like we're all over the world all the time. So it is really hard if I have to go home and pay a full rent and then even when I'm not living there and we're traveling the world, like you're still covering that rent because I mean that's the stress. And there are girls in my teams like that, or girls with children or families, girls paying off mortgages. That's really difficult. And yeah, there's countless hours, trainings in the early morning for that reason and late at night. So girls can go to training and then work during the day and then go back to training at night. And that's really difficult. I am lucky that I'm able to capitalize off social media and I encourage my teammates every single day to get on board because it does really help. And I mean, there's so many benefits to it, but that's just one. Now that we've started to see a bit more success with water polo, and the Aussie Stingers, we are getting paid a little bit more. So it's definitely helpful, but yeah, nowhere near where it could be or should be. Um, and with that as well, the sport grows when there's more money. You can spend more on advertising, marketing, game time slots, venues, things like that. So I think more money is always helpful for the players, but also the organization so the sport can continue to grow.
Yeah, of course. And are there any systems that you think could be put in place to better support you guys as athletes?
I'm not totally sure about the answer of that. I think it comes down to the public and where the public's wanting to watch. I think when people buy tickets and memberships and stuff to sports organizations, that is helpful. And the most helpful and easiest thing that the public can do is to tune in and watch and buy tickets and come to our games. Usually the fees are only pool entry, which is like $5 anyway. But to show up really is the most helpful way because it just stirs that visibility and creates a little bit of excitement, which is like a snowball effect, as I mentioned earlier. Um, we do get some government help, which kind of is split across sports everywhere. Um, and I think the more that the athletes involved put themselves out there, especially online, and kind of bring a bit more visibility to the sport, that is what's most helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and in your experience as a female athlete, have you had to fight harder for recognition?
Um, Always. I mean, I think that's part of my day-to-day job and why I post online so much is just so I can bring a bit of visibility to water polo. I feel like I am a bit of that spokesperson now for the sport, especially in the collegiate system over here in the US. I've opened up a lot of doors for young Australians to see that the US collegiate system is a really good way to go because you get an education, you get to play water polo at a really high level, plus you get all the life experiences that come with that and amazing friends across the world. Um, and it's really fun over here. So I have kind of opened up that door, and I see a lot of young water polo players now going overseas because of that. And then there's other options like going to Europe, and I think there's no way that young people would be able to see that those are even options without the role of social media and us posting.
Yeah, and in your experience over in the US, can you see much of a difference in the culture in sport in Australia versus the way that you're treated over there as an athlete?
Yeah, it's like night and day, funnily enough. It is just so professional over here. It's even if no one's showing up to your games, which people do, but even if no one's showing up, it still feels like it's super important and your sport is the most important event that's happening that weekend. The streaming is amazing. They have commentators at every game. They always rally a crowd. They know how to get crowds into because they put incentives like free pizza or like a free shirt, like fun things like that that just makes people want to come. It helps that it's college and kids are kind of always looking for things to do. That definitely helps. Um, but there's just so much money in America that they just throw so much money at people, and they have the ability to do that. And I think Australia has got a lot of work to do to catch up, but the US is world's best at it. I think their women's basketball is prime example of there's just been so much investment in it, and now it is huge. And the women's NBA is surpassing men's NBA attendance numbers, which just shows that there's definitely a market for it, but the US just know how to market it properly right now.
Yeah. And what is the long term goal now? What is your kind of next steps? What does the next 5 to 10 years look like for you?
I don't know. That's, I mean, I finished my last ever class of university today, which is perfect timing for that question because I don't know. I am, of course, still going to play water polo. I'm trying for LA 2028 will be the next Olympics. Then after that, it's in Australia. So it's my two homes, my two sides of the world. So that's a goal. I think thinking to 2032 when it's in Australia, that's a bit too far ahead. I'm not sure if I can hold on that long, but as long as I'm still loving water polo, I'm still going to play it. And I'm still going to be a spokesperson for not just for water polo, but I am just so passionate about young girls staying in sport. I just see there's so much value in that. So I would love to create non-for-profits or some kind of way to encourage young girls to just keep participating in sport, even if you're not looking to be an Olympian or to be a professional athlete. There's just so much value in it. So I'm passionate about that. I'd love to stay involved there and then just keep posting online, seeing what comes from that, working with amazing brands and partners. Um, but yeah, just keeping on basically. And as long as I'm loving it, I'm going to keep doing it.
I love that so much. So, Tilly, we are making a playbook for success here on Momentum. So I am asking every one of our guests to give me their holy grail piece of advice. So I want to
Okay.
know, what would your key to success be? So it might be a professional piece of advice, fitness, maybe a beauty hack, just whatever makes you feel good and makes you ready to attack the day.
Okay, I'm going to split off two ways with this question. One surrounding water polo or sport, actually, and then the other more like just life in general. My life in general one is to have a nighttime routine and a morning routine, specifically like skincare, something to make you feel good. I've got like an extensive skincare morning routine and nighttime routine, and it's just the perfect way to unwind, reset. I love it. My night's not over until I do that, and I can lay in bed fully refreshed. I just think it's the best way to start and finish your day. And then in a water polo sense, I think the biggest thing that athletes, no matter the sport, honestly, is confidence. Confidence comes and goes, but one tip that I have to kind of get your confidence up before a game is I've got my own little highlight package on my camera roll of my own highlights, just so before I go into a game, I I'm like telling myself, I'm showing myself with these highlights that I know how to do this stuff. I'm great. I know how to score goals, so nothing's new when I enter the game. But that's just one thing I tell, like, especially young athletes, be your own biggest fan, watch your own highlights. There's nothing that can get your confidence up before a game like that. Those are my two rituals.
Yeah, imposter syndrome doesn't exist here.
No way. Yeah, you deserve to be where you are.
Exactly right. Well, thank you, Tilly, so much for joining us on Momentum today. And thank you so much to everybody at home for keeping up with us here on Momentum. You can catch us anywhere you get your podcasts. And of course, you can catch us on Binge. So make sure to keep up with us on socials at The Momentum Show. I've been Kat Sasso and I'll see you next time.